Welcome back to Kickincrochet. Today we are going to do the July glove in this year of gloves. This one reminds me of a saguaro cactus. I just think it's kind of silly, but it's actually super comfortable. And it's very stretchy. So this is the seventh glove. The thumb is made using short rows, and the rest of the glove is made just in back and forth rows lengthwise. And you can see how here in the middle of the glove, it does span the full length again, just in the very middle of the thumb. So something to keep in mind if you're going to try and modify the sizing at all, that you can make it bigger here also, but that will also increase the width of the thumb. So both the right and the left gloves are identical. I'm using a DK weight yarn. I've got Swish DK in color Gulf Stream and a size G crochet hook. You can get the link for the pattern in the video description. I'll be demonstrating the 7-inch size just because that happens to be the size that I wear, but it is written for 7-inch through 9-inch hands, and that's measured around the 4 finger knuckles of the hand if you take a soft tape measure and measure around your 4 knuckles, or you can put a piece of string around, mark that spot, and then measure how long that is if you don't have a flexible tape measure. So this one, I'm going to start with foundation single crochet. If you would rather start with a chain and then turn and single crochet along that chain, that's fine, but you're going to want 36 stitches, and that length is the same for all of the sizes. So if you want a longer glove, you're going to want to do more than 36 stitches here. And when you get to the thumb, you can decide where those extra stitches are, if they're on the wrist side or the finger side or whatever. But you will have to modify the pattern if you want to do that. None of those modifications are written in the actual pattern. So for the actual pattern, all of the gloves, you will do 36 foundation single crochet. So I'll start with a loop on my hook, chain 1, and I'm going to insert my hook in that chain, pull up a loop. Now instead of finishing the single crochet, I'm going to chain 1, and that counts as my foundation chain, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. That extra stitch that I just made on the bottom is now where I'm going to insert my hook, and always try to get both loops there because it'll look like a better end. This one doesn't matter so much since it will be sewn together, but just in general for foundation stitches. Pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over and pull through both loops. And we're just going to repeat this. I'm inserting my hook in that extra chain, pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over and pull through both. Now I'm going to do this until I have 36 stitches. You can decide if you want to count that starting chain as a stitch or not. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, just depends on how it's looking. So 36 foundation single crochet. Okay, once you have 36 foundation stitches, you will chain 1 and turn, and then you'll back loop single crochet. So in the top of the stitch, there's the front loop and the back loop. Insert your hook in the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. We'll do that all the way across. So insert in the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. We'll do this all the way across. So now that you finish that row, you're actually going to do 13 more rows of the same. So you have 2 rows done, the first foundation row and then a row of back loop single crochet. You're going to do 13 more rows of the same. So when you get 15 rows finished, then you'll come back and we'll start the thumb. So now I've finished 15 rows. And if you're not sure how to count the rows on this, you can kind of spread it apart to make it easier to see. But also just each of these ridges is going to be 2 rows. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And then this one doesn't have the second half of the ridge, so it's 15. And keep in mind that if you're making a different size, you might have a different number of rows here. So for row 16, we're going to do chain 1 and turn, then we're going to back loop single crochet 26 instead of 36. So we're going to leave the last 10 stitches unworked, and then we're going to foundation single crochet 5, which is going to start this thumb here. So these extra 5 stitches of the thumb. So I'm going to do the 26 stitches, and then I will show you the foundation stitches for the thumb. So these first 26 back loop single crochet are just the same as normal. And if you decided to change the length of your glove, this is where you need to decide whether you're adding those stitches to the wrist side or the finger side. If you added stitches to the wrist side, you're going to do more back loop single crochet here before you do the foundation stitches. And if you're adding them to the finger side of the glove, you're going to leave more stitches unworked at the end of this row. So now I've done 26 stitches. I have 10 left in the row, and I'm going to do 5 foundation single crochet. So to do that on a row that's already kind of in progress, I'm going to insert my hook into the same stitch that I just worked, pull up a loop, now chain 1, and then yarn over and pull through both. So now that extra chain 1 again is like my base chain, my foundation chain. So I'm going to insert in that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, chain 1, and pull through 2. Do this 3 more times. So I have a total of 5 foundation stitches. So if you count from the beginning of this row, you should have 31 stitches, your 26, and then your 5 additional foundation stitches. So 31 total stitches here. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to back loop single crochet 9 and then back loop slip stitch 1. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now I'm going to back loop slip stitch. So again, just insert into that back loop, pull up a loop, and then pull it through the loop on your hook. So I've done 10 stitches here, but the last one was a slip stitch, and the reason you do that is so that your short rows are not as bulky here where they join into the glove. If you did that as a regular single crochet, a back loop single crochet, it would still work. It would just be a little bit bulkier at the join. Now you're going to chain 1 and turn, and you're going to back loop single crochet back to the end, so 10 stitches. So I am working in that slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to go on to the next short row. We'll chain 1 and turn. We'll do 12 back loop single crochet and then 1 back loop slip stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and this 10th one is often a little bit tight. 10. So that's where the previous slips or short row ended. So we'll keep going. So I've worked into this one, so I'm going on the next one here. 11, 12, and then a back loop slip stitch for 13. Now chain 1 and turn, and we're just going to back loop single crochet all the way across. This should be 13 stitches back to the tip of the thumb. All right, for the next short row, it's going to be 16 stitches, so 15 back loop single crochet, 1 back loop slip stitch. So we'll chain 1 and turn, do 15 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, the 13th again is a little bit tight because it was a slip stitch but it's right there. And now that's the end of our previous short row, so we'll jump down here to do 14 and 15. And then 1 back loop slip stitch. Now we'll just go back all the way to the end, chain 1 turn, and we're going to back loop single crochet down to the end of the thumb. So it should be 16 stitches. Okay, this is actually the end of 1/2 of the short rows. So the next 2 rows are going to be full length. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to just back loop single crochet all the way to this end, and then chain 1 turn, back loop single crochet all the way back over. So it should be 31 stitches each way. So chain 1 and turn. And this is another place where if you are doing a different size glove, you may have 2 extra rows here on the edge of the thumb. And if you want to modify the width of the thumb, you can do so here, but I would always change it in multiples of 2 rows. Otherwise, you're going to mess up the other half of the short rows for the thumb, because the pattern will be going the wrong way. So that's a bad plan. I also would definitely double check your stitch count at the end of this row just to make sure you still have the right number of stitches for your thumb. Right, so we did those 2 rows, we went all the way down, all the way back, and you can see these are our short rows here coming down. So now we're going to work on the other side of the thumb, and we're going to do the same short rows, we're going to do them in the opposite order. So previously we did 10, then 13, then 16 stitches, so here we're going to do 16, then 13, then 10 stitches. So we'll chain 1 and turn, we'll back loop single crochet 15, then back loop slip stitch 1, chain 1 and turn. I'll back loop single crochet to the end of the thumb, which should be 16 stitches. Now for the second short row, it's going to be 13, so we'll do 12 back loop single crochet and then 1 slip stitch. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the 13th stitch is going to be 1 back loop slip stitch, chain 1 and turn. I'll do 13 back loops single crochet across back to the end of the thumb. If I don't lose. All right, our last short row is going to be 10, so we'll chain 1 and turn, do 9 back loop single crochet, and then 1 back loop slip stitch, chain 1 and turn, do 10 back loop single crochet. Okay, so that's the end of the short rows. You can see it looks kind of jagged here still because it hasn't been joined together. So that's what happens next. Now we're going to chain 1, turn, and back loop single crochet to the end. So it should be 31 stitches. So our 10th stitch ended that shortest short row. Then there's 3 more stitches in the next short row. Then 3 more stitches in the next short row. We're just kind of stepping down this little ladder here. And then we'll come all the way down off our last short row and work all the way to the end. All right, now our thumb is almost done. The last step here on this row, we're going to end up rejoining from here over to here. So we'll leave this last little bit of thumb unworked. So we're going to turn and we're going to do 26 stitches here, and then we're going to skip these last 5 and instead do the last 10 that we left unworked on the glove from that previous row. So we should end up here with 36 stitches because that's how many we started with at the very beginning of the glove. So chain 1 and turn. I'm going to do 26 to start with. So you should have 5 unworked stitches left here on the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to come over here. And you can see here, we worked the back loop there, not this one. So that's where we're going to pick up. So we just kind of fold that thumb over and we're going to pick up right where we left off here. So we should have 10 more stitches to work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's always good when the math works. Just be aware, this is still open here. You're going to end up sewing that closed at the end of your thumb. But you're welcome to try the thumb on here just to get an idea of the fit. You can kind of imagine what it's like with that closed up. So now we are once again going to just do rows of back loop single crochet across for quite a while. So we're going to do 15 rows of back loop single crochet across. It's actually going to be, for this glove, it'll be row 47 when we finish. And then once we finish that, we're actually just going to sew. So you can cut yarn and leave it long for sewing and weaving in ends. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Where did I go? So now, like I said, 15 rows of just back loop single crochet across. It should end up approximately the same length as the other side. And so here, when you get to the thumb, you can see, you can follow the stitches you went right across. So ignore the thumb completely. And you're just going to keep working down this line of stitches. All right, I finished my last row. And if you're doing the 7-inch size, it's easier to count along just the cuff. You would have 35 rows here along the cuff before the thumb, even though the actual row is like 47 or something. Okay. Now I'm going to cut this and leave a long tail. I don't really know how long you need to leave it. And then pull this out. Get your yarn needle. And attach the yarn here. Now we're going to fold our glove over. And you can use whatever sewing technique you would like. I am not an expert sewing person at all. So, yeah, not an expert. That's my big caveat. So, I'm trying to remember how I did it on the last one. I believe. And inside, kind of the inside loop on the one side, and the inside loop on the other side. And I'm basically just kind of doing like a whip stitch. So I'm going to come back to this side. I do inside loop and the inside loop. It really does not matter how you do this. As long as you're happy with the results, I'm happy with the results. So I'm just going to do this all the way along the glove. until I have the whole thing sewn together. The reason I'm doing the inside loops here is because I'm trying to make it so that the ridge of this pattern kind of matches up a little bit so it doesn't break the pattern so much. You can kind of see here how it looks on the finished one, but it's going to be the side of your thumb, and it's okay if it, sorry, this side. It's not going to be perfect, but it's not super noticeable, and it's the pinky side of your glove, so it's not really in a super obvious place. So as long as you're consistent and it's kind of neat and tidy, it doesn't matter exactly how you sew this. Okay, you can, if you want, weave this through to get back to the thumb, but I'm just going to join a new piece of yarn to the thumb area. So for the thumb, you really just need to sew this these last 5 stitches together. I'm going to start at the end here. You can start wherever you want. And I'm just going to sew them together the same way. I'm going to leave a tail here just to be able to tie off and weave in that end when I'm done. I'm just going to leave it hanging for now because it'll be easier for me to tie off at the end. Okay, now one thing that you can do here is you can try and kind of close up these gaps if you want, because it does leave a little bit of a gap from the short row, where you do the foundation stitches for the thumb. So there's not an exact science to this. You can just kind of weave it around a little bit until it doesn't have that gap. So I didn't really do that very much on this other one because I wanted to be able to show you the difference. So it's a little bit gappier here. I didn't weave in or tie this tightly there. So that's up to you how much you want to do here at the thumb. And then all you're going to need to do here is tie off your ends and weave them in, and then you're done. So I hope you enjoyed this glove, and happy crocheting.